March 2025 here in fabulous Penguin. As some people will know, we are here every March. We bring the monthly meeting to Penguin in March every year. So I think this is maybe the third year we've done so. We're always looking forward to that. Thank you to those in the gallery for taking time to join us this evening. My advice is in relation to the digital recording of our council meeting this evening. So please be advised this council meeting is recorded. It is being live streamed and will remain available to the public online on our YouTube channel. Digital recordings are conducted in accordance with the local government meeting regulations and our own digital recording policy. We will start with our acknowledgement of country and statement of values. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Chair. The acknowledgement of country. The Central Coast Council acknowledges and pays respect to the traditional owners of Lutruwita, Tasmania, the Palawa Pakana people. We acknowledge the Punalapana tribe of this northern country, and in doing so, we celebrate one of the world's oldest continuing cultures. And the statement of values, guided by the diverse beliefs, experiences, and backgrounds of the people we represent, we strive to make inspired and respectful decisions today that will build a better tomorrow.
Thank you so much. That takes us to item 1, which is attendance and apologies. So apologies this evening from Councillor Kate Wiley. No apologies from staff. Item 2, declarations of interest. So councillors and staff must declare any pecuniary or conflict of interest in any item on the agenda. Are there any declarations to be made this evening? No, there's none. Item 3 is confirmation of the minutes. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for that item? Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Seconded, Councillor Hiskett. Any questions on the accuracy of the minutes for the last months? No, there being none, I put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4 is the Mayor's report. Nothing to report this evening. I will leave that to others. 4.2 is the Mayor's diary. A list of events there that I have attended on your behalf, and the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Smith have also attended. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for that item? Councillor Beswick. Thank you. Councillor Diprose seconded. Any questions on the diary?
I'd just like to make a note, Mayor, that I also attended the Pancake Day. Penguin, I'd like to congratulate you on the way you flipped the pancakes.
I am just a trainee pancake flipper. I just turn up to help the others, but it is a great event and they raised an excellent amount of money for grandparents raising grandchildren this year. So
grateful.
Thank you for joining me there also. Any other questions? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried. 5.2, councillor questions on notice. No questions have been received. Councillor questions without notice. Councillors are in, sorry, I apologise. I missed 5.1, councillor communications. Thank you so much, Councillor Hiskett. And I know that there are councillors that are keen to make communications, so this is good. Councillors may use this time to acknowledge or report on important events and community matters or updates. Any updates, please? Councillor Dip.
Yeah, just wearing orange tonight. Just to remind everyone that this week is Harmony Week. And what a better way to start Harmony Week than with Songkran, which was held yesterday Pine Cliff Road, where there was so many people gathering there. It was just fantastic. Just want to thank close Gary and Penny Paul, who have had it there now for a couple of years, do an amazing job. And it was great to have Llewellyn Beatty, who's the Honorary Thai Council, there yesterday as well. The celebration included like Thai dancing, Thai boxing, just beautiful festivals, the colours, traditional dress and everything is just amazing. And also they presented Councillor Casey Hiskett, who's chair of the Penguin 150 committee, with a cheque towards the celebrations, which was great to see. And just wanted to point out that since 1999, there have been 80,000 Harmony Week events across the country, which I think is fantastic. And I know there's a lot of our local schools this week have got a particular day where they can wear orange and celebrate Harmony Week. It's so good that we have such a diverse community now. And I noticed in one of our reports that actually 15.9% of residents in Central Coast were born overseas. So that's great that we actually celebrate that. And I think Harmony Week has just been getting bigger and bigger over the years, and look forward to Central Coast doing something for Harmony Week itself in the years to come.
Thank you so much. Other speakers, please. Councillor Hislop.
Yeah, a few reports. One for the Penguin Surf Saving Club. They held their state senior championship on the weekend, and was able to attend the opening. Joined by yourself, thank you. East MLC, Lick Diving, MLC, the Immune Open, the Dowling piece. Great, looked like a great day. A bit cold. Sorry, for councillors. Looked like a great day, but a little bit cold for me hopping the water too. But they would have enjoyed themselves. Yeah. Also, I want to report on the Slipstone Circus. They have their AGM tomorrow night, which is expected to go well. They have a new show called We Care, which they'll be presenting as part of 10 Days on the Island. They have 3 shows, no tickets required, on the Saturday the 29th of March, the Burnie Arts Centre at 6 p.m. And then also in Launceston on Sunday the 30th of March at 2 p.m. at Civic Square in Launceston. So if you can get a chance to get along to watch them, that would be good. And just an update on the Penguin 150. Progress is happening. Events and planning are proceeding very well. We have our first event this Sunday, 2:30, the Penguin Waddle. As I reach into my pocket and grab my mask out, I'll be leading the kids through Penguin to the big Penguin. I'm going to keep it on, thanks you. Down the different. To celebrate that, we also have so at 2:30 on Sunday. We also have the Easter egg hunt, April 13th at Biscuit Park. So if just urge people to follow us on Facebook for Penguin 150 to follow events throughout the year. So things progressing well. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Sorry, Mayor, just one little thing.
Yes.
The Penguin Squash Club held the Northwest Masters on the weekend, which attracted over 34 players from throughout the state and their families, and that was a fabulous weekend for them. A lot of people made comments on how beautiful Penguin was, and they enjoyed going to the market. If they weren't playing squash, the partners were up at the market and doing other things. So yeah, it's great to see so many people come in, and I'm saying that they look forward to coming back for holidays.
Thank you so much. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like to report for the our municipal band. They're off to the Australian National Band Championships this year at Easter. They are taking 28 players and a conductor, Tom, to Melbourne. The ages are from 10 to 82. 7 players are under 16 and under. Multiple families are going, some of which are the support crews. Spirit of Tasmania are supporting our band. With paid passengers of a van carrying all the large gear and 2 passengers. They will be competing at the Methodist Ladies College at Kew in Victoria, staying together with at a hotel near. They are actually the actual championship will be live streamed. All the bands playing and they are also running multiple fundraising events, and they're currently obtaining prizes for such. I'll go through the dates in a sec, but there's a trivia night. The community and business have been very supportive, and they've given wine travel vouchers and tools and grocery vouchers. Now they've also got for their fundraising, they're doing a Lamington fundraiser, which is all the help. I've also got a trivia night that's going to be on the 29th of March. Now it's going to be at their band rooms, and it's $15 a head with supper all included, drinks available for purchase. And on the Sunday, the 30th of March, at 1:30, at the Senior Citizens Club there in 16 King Edward Street, Ulverston, they're doing a band pre-national concert. Tickets available at the door, $10 adults, and so just if people could support that, that's all going towards the funds to try to help getting that many people over there to the band national championships. And we know what a great job they do for our community, and we're grateful for that. And we're just pleased if people could give them a hand. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any other reports? Yes.
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to acknowledge two outstanding young women in our community that are excelling in their sporting fields at the moment. It was noted in the newspaper, but I'd just like to put on the record for this meeting. Tarly Gale and Harriet Close. Tarly, after putting her best foot forward at trials, has been selected to don the Tasmanian colours at the Emerging Matilda Championships in Sydney. So she's been doing very well in her soccer career. That tournament will run from July the 15th to the 20th. And she's had great support from the Ulverstone Soccer Club and been encouraged to participate in that. I know it was mentioned Elise Mee, who's the current president of the soccer club. So she's been doing very well, and I'd like to wish her luck. The benefits coming up over the next 12 months is with the council building a new facilities there for change rooms and so forth. And they hope to be able to get a women's team back into the state league, which will be great in the future. And Harriet Close, it's amazing when young people, young women in this case, doing two sports at once. And Harriet has been named in the basketball Tasmania under-18 team that will go to Brisbane next month for their national championships. But she's also playing state netball as well. And so I just like to commend those two young ladies on their exploits. Wish them luck with their championships.
Indeed. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you for those community updates. It's important and appreciated. 5.2 then, councillor questions on notice. No questions on notice have been received. Councillor questions without notice. Councillors are invited to ask any questions without notice at this time. All questions can be asked and answered at this point in time. Any questions without notice for the staff, please? No. Thank you so much. 5.4, councillor motions on notice. No motions on notice have been received, which takes us to section 6, petitions and deputations. 6.1, petitions. No petitions have been received. 6.2, deputations. No request to address the meeting, being as deputations have been received. Public question time. Public question time will be conducted in accordance with Regulation 31 of the Government Meeting Regulations and our own public question time policy, and we allow a period of a maximum of 30 minutes at that point in time. We might just do 7.1 and then come back to that. So we've got some public questions which were taken on notice from previous meetings. 2 questions were taken on notice from the 17th of February 2025, the meeting there. The council's written responses to those questions are sent directly to the questioners following the meeting, and they are included in the agenda for the purpose of record. And then we also had some questions on notice for this meeting. So 4 questions from members of the public were submitted on notice for the 17th of March 2025 council meeting. So my task is to read those questions and the responses. So Mr. Philip Jewell from Preston, question 1, does the change of title of General Manager to CEO reflect a change of council from a public body to a body corporate? And the response from our Acting Chief Executive Officer, the change of title to the position of General Manager does not reflect a change to Council's corporate status. At the Central Coast Council, the title of Chief Executive Officer is a term of reference for the General Manager as appointed by the Council pursuant to Section 61 of the Local Government Act 1993 and carries the same meaning for the purposes of the Local Government Act 1993 and all other legislation administered by or concerning the Council. The title of CEO is considered to be a more contemporary reference, better reflecting the position and the nature of the role. And Mr. Jewell's second question on notice was, is Central Coast Council a body corporate? Sorry, a public body? My apologies, a body public or a body corporate or both? And the response from the Acting Chief Executive Officer is, as per the public question response letter sent to you on the 30th of August 2024, and as stated in section 19(1) Corporation of Councils of the Local Government Act 1993, a council is a body corporate. Given that this is the second question related to council's legal status as an entity, in line with council's public question time policy, a response to this question will not be provided again. Two questions from Councillor or Mr. Trent Aiken of Burnie. Question 1. There was a basketball half court and ring located in Hiscott Park for decades that has now been removed. What is the reason behind its removal? And question 2, it appears that there is more of a focus on children being next to the seaside with a new basketball court being built next to the skate park. What actions, if any, does Central Coast Council intend to take to ensure that children can cross the three-way 6-lane intersection that they will now have to cross to access the basketball court? And the response to both questions has been provided from the Acting Chief Executive Officer. The Hiscott Park basketball court was identified as needing renewal in 23-24, and the decision was made that a new and improved facility would be best located at Johnson's Beach. Council acknowledges that advance notice of the court's removal and relocation should have been provided to the community. As a result of the clear feedback received from the Central Coast community to retain a basketball court at Hiscott Park, the council has decided to install an improved court designed specifically for younger children, which will now complement the facility at Johnson's Beach. That brings us to the end of the public questions on notice, which takes us to public question time for questions without notice. So public questions without notice provide you with members of the public with an opportunity to ask questions of the council relating to our activities. Statements and debate are not allowed, and any questions must be asked clear and succinct. And for the purposes of streaming and recording, you'll know that there's a little table there in the middle with the microphone. So if you do have a question for us, I just ask you to step forward to the table and use the microphone so that those watching via stream can hear you. Members of the public may ask up to 2 questions without notice at this time, and the questions are to be directed to myself. Please state your name and your area of residence and the subject matter of the question prior to asking it. All these questions are done in relation to our public question time policy. The only other thing that I would remind you is that it is being live streamed and does remain on the public record. And that there's also no questions that are taken in relation to other items which might be further on in the agenda to ensure procedural fairness for those things. Firstly, before we get started, I suppose I would just preface it by saying, obviously, for the past month, there's been lots of interest, particularly in Penguin, in relation to the Homes Tasmania development at 1 Ironcliffe Road and the Our Homes, Our Future strategic piece of residential land use. I've said many times where it's unfortunate that the consultation on those 2 things landed in the same month. Homes Tasmania had intended to do their work earlier. We had intended to do our work around this time. Those things didn't happen. So nobody's fault, but unfortunate that that collided. I'm also mindful that there are people that are coming to the discussion around the Homes Tasmania Ironcliffe Road site perhaps for the first time. Some of you will know that this is a conversation we've been having for many years in relation to the ownership of the land and the transfer of that land and so forth. So we have provided some printed information, but I might just call on the Director, Darryl Conley, Director of Strategic Growth, just to provide us some context for that, which because we've got some frequently asked questions that might help people that were interested in that subject tonight. Darryl.
Very good, thanks, Mayor. So we've prepared a handout that tackles around half a dozen frequently asked questions, and I'm not going to read it out verbatim because there's a copy there for everybody to take with you, and I don't want to eat into your own time, but I'll just cover off on what I think the key points are. quickly. So I guess as the Mayor said, there's been a lot of confusion between the Homes Tasmania development and our project, which is Our Homes, Our Future. And in particular, some confusion around consultation for both of those projects. So Our Homes, Our Future is a $1.6 million once in a generation opportunity really to get long-term planning for Central Coast residential growth right. So it's all about taking a really sophisticated look at making sure we have the right types of housing in the right places moving forward. We started that work in September and that work is due to finish in May. A lot of people provide a lot of feedback, you know, I would downsize if only there was the type of apartment I would like to move into available. So we get a lot of feedback that the market doesn't offer what people are after. So this project is about delivering that extra variety while protecting what is special about Central Coast. So I could talk about that until the cows come home, but I won't. Obviously, the next question is, how is Our Homes, Our Future related to the Penguin Recreation Ground development? They're not really. The word homes appears in both of them, but other than that, they're quite separate. So I think most people understand that the former Penguin Recreation Ground now belongs to Homes Tasmania. It was required to be handed back from council to the state government as recreation use had ceased. Homes Tasmania are seeking to rezone that site, and they're developing something that's called a specific area plan, which will set the setbacks, heights, design guidelines just for the former recreation ground. They're actually doing that through an unusual process called a housing land supply order. So unlike a usual rezoning, council isn't even involved in that process. So normally council has to agree to initiate a rezoning, and then ultimately there'll be hearings and the planning commission will have it say, this is going to a different piece of legislation. And, you know, the government would say, I'm sure, that that is unashamedly, that new legislation was really aimed at them being able to meet their targets around affordable housing. So separate projects, council doesn't have a lot of involvement in the recreation ground one, other than working with the Homes Tasmania team. Our biggest message to them all along has been, the Penguin community really cares, they need to be heard, please make sure that they get those consultation opportunities. What is council's position on allowing more green space at the former Penguin Recreation Ground? So I feel like everybody must have asked Homes Tasmania last week, why isn't there more green space? And I kind of feel like Homes Tasmania must have said something like, because council won't take any more green space. Not true. So I'll be honest, council ordinarily wouldn't take on public open space in that subdivision because our policy says we can take up to 5% of the land, or we can take a cash contribution, and in an area of the municipality that is already well serviced by green space, we would generally take a cash contribution and then we reinvest that money into vegetation, parks and gardens, those kinds of things. We obviously knew that this is a different type of development. The density is much higher. We knew the community wants green space. We have agreed to take on all of the green space that Homes Tasmania have asked us to take on. After the first round of public consultation, they asked, would we take on an additional area up to 25% larger? We said that we would. They haven't asked us to take on any more. The point that I would make, though, is that Homes Tasmania, of course, are free to incorporate their own green space that council doesn't own and maintain in any way that they would like. So it wouldn't be unusual for a body corporate, for example, for a strata corporation to maintain parks and gardens and those sorts of things. So Homes Tasmania are very aware that that's what I was telling everybody tonight. What is the history of the former Penguin Recreation Ground site? I won't go into all of the details. Suffice to say, at some point in time, some of the land was in private ownership. Then I think it was in council ownership. Then the lot ended up in state government ownership and it was given back to council on the basis we use it as a recreation ground. I've explained why we gave it back, and I think it's important to point out that at the time that we did give it back, we checked with the lawyers just to make sure that we had to give it back before we did, but there's more information about that there. People are keen to know, okay, so what is council's position on building heights and setbacks in Penguin? We've actually never had a formal position on things like building setbacks and heights. Our Homes, Our Future, that strategic master plan that I talked to you about, that's actually our first ever opportunity to look really strategically at how we can make sure that we have a planning scheme here that's really fit for purpose. So the Tasmanian planning scheme is a bit of a blunt instrument that says to councils, you choose whether you want to apply the rural zone, the general res zone, any other zones. This piece of work actually gives us the opportunity to look at that in a much more nuanced way and propose our own heights and setbacks across the municipality to the Tasmanian Planning Commission for their consideration. Look, you won't be surprised to hear that our consultants kind of think along the same lines as the Homes Pers. They're saying we need more density, land prices are expensive, part of the solution for affordable housing is higher density, maybe 2 stories, maybe 3 stories. I should point out that there is no maximum height in the general residential zone at the moment. So you can do it's not a maximum height, so it's an acceptable solution. What it means is in the general residential zone at the moment, if you're building to that height, you get an immediate tick. You can build higher, but it just becomes a discretionary application. So it's the public can have their say. So there's a lot more detail on that. The most important thing though is how you can have your say. So the public consultation is about to kick off this week for Our Homes, Our Future. You'll be able to look at the structure plans for Penguin, Ulverston, Preservation Bay, Sulphur Creek. You'll be able to see what's proposed for each of those areas. There'll be an interactive online map. You'll be able to drop a pin on a property and it will tell you in plain English what new building height is being proposed. And when I say being proposed, these are draft documents. We wanted to create a conversation. The last thing we wanted to do with a 1.6 million once in a lifetime project was start with saying to the consultants, don't talk about building heights, we don't want any change. We know it needs to change, so we really think we better speed up.
Thank you, Darryl. So we've got those frequently asked question sheets that look like that. Ample copies over there on the side. So at any point, grab one, or on your way home, grab one, and multiple ways there that you can tell us what you think about that. But we realise that that's been a hot topic of conversation in Penguin over the last couple of months. So just hoping to provide some information there. That said, we now open up the floor to public question time. I'm keeping my eye on the clock. So if you've got a question, I would welcome that. Please step forward to the little table there where the microphone is for the purposes of the streaming. Just introduce yourself and where you're from and the nature of your question.
My name is Val Choice Vice, currently in Ulverston.
Thanks.
17 months. And just this is really a preliminary question, nothing to do with anything apart from the venue of the meeting. This morning I checked the list of 2025 meetings on the website, and at the bottom it says meetings are held at Baker Street. And if it wasn't for them, to send me a link to another web page where it says that it's Penguin, I would have gone to the Edward Street on my bicycle rather than driving here. And so that's a little bit confusing.
Thank you, Val. We appreciate that.
Be a little bit clearer, and people wouldn't have to have a super internet search skills in order to know where. That's my first.
Thank you. The CEO has that on notice. Thanks, Val. Appreciate that. Any other questions? Mr. Maggs.
Neil Maggs, Penguin.
Welcome.
Two questions. The first one is to do with the whole grass area of Main Street, Penguin, Lions Park and Watkins Beach. Now, as all you would know, we have a dual pathway and we had Fair Brothers do all the work for it. It is in very poor condition. It is, Fair Brothers used rubber instead of topsoil. And you can see that, and I'd encourage all of you to go down and walk the whole portion. It is rubble, it's bits of brick, there is concrete, it is compacted down that hard that grass will not grow. And I have spoken to you there, and I've spoken to other council employees. It is now time to aerate it, topsoil it, and use a decent seed. Most of the gardens or grass areas in the whole of our coastline is buffalo grass. It survives the salt air, it survives the hot weather. Down where in Penguin it's not. Honestly, it is an absolute mess, and I do encourage you all to do something about it. Now's the time, autumn, it's not being used. Funding, well, that's not my problem. You know.
So your question is there an undertaking to improve?
Is there an undertaking? Is it put into this year's budget?
Thank you. I'll refer through you, CEO, to the Director of Infrastructure Services, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, so I can talk to my team to understand what they think would need to be done and get some costing. It's certainly something we can consider
next year's budget. There's nothing in our current financial year's budget which will allow for that. Yeah, we can consider it.
12 months is a long time.
Yep. That's,
Second question is to do with funds. There's probably an A and a B to this question. You've just sold off the old council chambers in Penguin. Does that money actually get put back in the Penguin?
You're referring to part of the lot there beside the old depot site in Park Avenue? So what is that money? What does that money get used for? Is the question there? Part A of question 2. Am I being generous? Yes.
Yes, you are.
Part A of question 2, CEO. Where's that money headed? The Park Avenue, or any money that's received from the sale of property?
Thank you, Mayor. We haven't specifically earmarked that money for a specific purpose, but certainly the intent from the sale of surplus land is to reinvest it back into public spaces. We undertook some survey work recently and we had over 300 respondents to that survey work as a part of our open space plan development. That said, people in our community are really interested in having more diverse and inclusive play spaces. So we'd certainly reinvest anything we receive from the sale of public land back into public assets and infrastructure.
So the foreshore is looking good there.
But I'm sure you will agree there's been a lot of expenditure over the course of the year.
You'd like it to go to Buffalo Grass. We've done this. Question 2, part B. Something generous.
Honestly, this could be a room. Clear it up here and there. The AFL gave Penguin Football Club $25 million new stadium, as I understand it. That funds, I believe, is in your coffers, and is it the full amount still in the coffers? Has any of it been used?
Parts A, B, C and D, I'm hearing. So, yeah, that's fine.
You've got the whole thing.
Thank you. So, no, the AFL Tasmania had nothing to do with them. So it was the state government through Infrastructure Tasmania. It was an election commitment into future budgets. So we haven't reached the future yet, Neil. So we're not even yet in the year where the $25 million appears in the state government's forward estimates. So in answer to your question, where is the money in the forward estimates for the state government? Is any of it in our bank account? No. D, do I know what's happening? Not quite yet. You will have seen or you may or may not have seen a press media release that went out last week that confirmed that this facility shall remain in council hands, not be transferred to Stadiums Tasmania. That decision was only made last week. And so we will now start in earnest our conversations with Infrastructure Tasmania about what do the upgrades look like? How do we get this venue to a Tier 4 facility that will service the football community of the region? Pleasure. Any other questions, please? Mind the cords.
Hey guys, thanks for the opportunity. Darren Briggs is my name from Penguin and served in the last stuff as well. So thanks councillors and staff. Maybe we should have done a deputation request. We'll see how we go and we'll give you our kind of paper and question afterwards. But this is in regards to the elm trees. Are they an obstacle to development or undervalued asset in Risby Street, particular? Okay, and council's plan to remove all 25. We acknowledge that there are issues in the street as far as pavement uplift and drainage issues. We, however, have questions that nowhere near the number are unhealthy, as has been stated in the arborist report the council got. An independent arborist that we had has said that is definitely not the case, and that there's only a handful of trees that are significantly unwell, 2 of which are the trees that your arborist report also said had drill holes in the bottom where locals have likely been putting poison and things like that. We, in our information review, have done literature research on the benefits of trees. And, the benefits of trees include increased property values, reduced crime rates, traffic calming, so reducing improved mental and physical health, reduced rates of skin cancer, reduced stormwater runoff of between 7 to 22% in an urban area. So locals are concerned about stormwater runoff. We get rid of those trees, it's going to increase as well. So questions,
Yes.
I'll do my two hopefully, appropriately. Have councillors and staff been able to familiarise themselves with alternative engineering options to address the valid community concerns in regards to stormwater drainage and footpath lift, while preserving mature tree canopy for the numerous benefits that we've outlined in the information we'll pass to you? And second question, damage to existing trees. Has council installed signs, can't see that you have, noting the damage and tampering to trees in Risby Street, as you do, for example, in England and things like that, reminding people that, you know, this is a community asset and that, you know, there's legal things there. Yeah, so we're asked if that's the case.
Thank you.
I should have said too, arborist, he's quite happy to go on the record with Chris Knowles as a local arborist, who I believe has done work for you guys in the past. And we'd like to have more discussion with council about this. And we acknowledge that some trees will probably have to go, but there's lots of values that we think may be overlooked and benefits to the community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Darren. Through you to the director.
Yeah.
Regarding the Risky Street project and the intent. Sorry.
So you can answer why you don't have to.
Yeah, I was going to say, sounds like you've got a fair bit of information there, so I'll give you the respect of reading through that and providing you a detailed answer, but I'll just preface to say that I'm not intimately familiar with the project, I'll get up to speed with that, but certainly removal of the trees would be a last option for us. It's certainly not an approach that we're taking, we're just going to go and remove trees because it's the easy option. So I will provide you a detailed response.
I guess the thing you should have said is this is kind of a fitness thing as well, like because, you know, Alston has very limited tree coverage. You want your green,
Breeding Central Coast.
you know, 30%. So we're keen to see
So are we.
facilitate more elsewhere as such.
Fabulous.
Jeez.
Susan, welcome.
My name is Susan Wright. I live on Risby Street.
Lovely.
I'm a new resident. I bought a house in October 2004.
Congratulations.
And I love it,
Right.
except I've had some very unpleasant experiences with some of the neighbours
Sorry.
because I'm trying to add value to the community by protecting the trees. I've had some residents, I can't repeat the language here, but basically back to the mainland.
Well, thank you for coming and asking your questions tonight and sharing it with us. So please, please go ahead.
So will council replace trees that require removal internally across the council area with a mix of natives and deciduous species of sufficient size and height, ensuring the environmental benefits and community wishes? As is evidence-based and best practice in other council jurisdictions. And will council review the opportunities to improve communication with the community and residents regarding the value of urban trees, the benefits and management operation options? Because it seems that some of the residents aren't aware of the value of the trees and they have some idea that it's actually going to
Great questions.
I guess we acknowledge too, the council seems to have done a good job in communicating with Risby Street residents
Yes.
on our door knocking, but outside of there, people are totally unaware of such.
Understood.
Thanks for the time.
Oh, no, thank you.
I just want to say to the people that don't live on Risby Street use the street as pedestrians and they like the shade.
Thank you. Two questions there to yourself, Director.
Yeah, so in terms of when we do have to remove a tree, whether we plant new trees in, obviously every situation is a case by case scenario, but the general approach is yes, we will replace one, if not two trees for every tree we remove. The type of tree we plant is guided by, we have I call it a palette of what vegetation we put in, so we guide by that. Usually, yes, if we're taking a tree down and has some form of canopy cover, we're aiming to get that back. We obviously can't put them in.
And the report, it said it was going to pick a tree that's it's a lower, what's it called? Cape Myrtle, which is not actually a large tree, it's small and it doesn't really have canopy because it's a V shape like this. And it's not even a native.
Yeah, so we have a mix of natives and non-natives. I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, well, that's the one they said they're going to replace all 25 trees with,
Yeah.
that particular tree.
And I guess we noticed that
Well,
community
actually, it's a shrub.
and community consultation wanted natives and multiple other councils have policies saying it should be a 50-50 mix for equal.
So I'm going to bring you to a conclusion there. No, I really appreciate it, but we have a time component and there may well be other people in the audience that want to ask. We appreciate the information. Thank you for your time. Susan sounds like she'd be a great candidate for our Greening Central Coast group. Yes, so please get in contact with us about doing that. We appreciate people that are passionate about trees. Thank you so much.
Mayor, correct me, Brett Ellison, 14 Mission Hill.
Brett, welcome.
Been there for nearly 50 years, so I think I'm all open. The question I've got is, as I understand it, there was a vote put about the jetty upgrade of
Jetty,
Penguin,
right?
and I believe it was a tied vote with the councillors, and you, Mayor, had the casting vote. I'd like to know why you voted against the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Allison. So you would be referring to the vote in relation to the boat ramp, not to be confused with the jetty. Yep, no, just to be clear. So that was at our January meeting. So there was a motion that was put by Councillor Hiskett, and that was voted 4-4. Councillor, well, there's normally 9 of us. Councillor Viney was an apology that night, which means that we are left with 8, which is an even number. So in that case, for any council anywhere, when there is a tied vote, the result is negative. So that wasn't my call. That was the call of the fact that it was voted 4-4. So 4 councillors voted in favour of Councillor Hiskett's motion and 4 councillors voted against, and meeting regulations determine that a tied vote is therefore a vote in the negative. And after that, we went on to other business. So, it was the vote, the motion was lost, but I didn't have a casting vote. I had 1 vote of the 8.
Okay, I understand that.
Hope that helps. Yeah.
The other one is, how much is the council budgeting to put the jetty so it's accessible again?
Good. Thank you. Yes, to the CEO.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Allison. The jetty repairs are expected to cost, we think, around $60,000 at the moment, and we're expecting to get an additional up to 5 years extra life on the jetty from that expenditure, and that will allow us to consider the proposed boat ramp upgrade more holistically as a part of a plan for the Johnsons Beach precinct. We know that that area is very heavily used by lots of users, by the boating community, by people using the pathway. We can consider parking and access and all those things. So that gives us a little bit of time to do some more planning work in consultation with the community, and consider, what the replacement jetty might look like.
Thank you.
Well, only it would be just the front gate to get past the jetty.
Thank you. Other questions, please? Yes, Val, did you wish to step forward? Thank you.
So that's the proper question now. Actually, I have 2 that are related to each other. And the first one is to do with the Risby Street project, a development project, or upgrade, as it says. I've read the report from Mr. Brown Energy Engineering, and I'm a bit confused now, because what it says on your website in bold letters is that at least 20 trees would be knocked down. This is in bold letters in text, because people have patients read all the time. What I've just heard is that that's not likely to happen. So I'm having a bit of cognitive dissonance right now. So I read the project plan, and first I was dismayed with this idea that the only 3-line street in Alveston that I noticed, and I'm very pleased to have some shade when I start through it as well, will be diluted, so to speak. But also, I wonder why active transport, walking or cycling, didn't get mentioned in this plan. And is this in accordance to Department of State Roads Active Transport Strategy, which I believe Council is familiar with, and I kind of, the way I understand how governance works should take notice of. So that's my first question. If we have A and B, I admit. The second one is, as you may remember, I've been to several council meetings, and my suggestion was that simple white lines, bicycle lanes, so the cheapest possible version that will indicate drivers and generally the public that cyclists do exist and they have right to exist, and that public active transport will be encouraged. I think we all agree that it will benefit most people, actually everyone. The children can go to school on bicycles, most safely, etc. I believe that would be very beneficial even if we have a couple of white lines along Main Street and maybe Eastern Drive. So I inquired again that directly with the mayor after a couple of responses I received in writing to my email and in-person questions last year. And the mayor's response quoted issues with replacing a CEO, appointing a person as a CEO, which was in progress recently, I understand.
Yes.
And that the mayor would, I'm quoting, discuss the issue with relevant staff members in February or March 2025, which is now. So I just wonder whether that's been done, and if not, when it's going to be.
Good, right, thank you.
Thanks.
So that, no, thank you. So the first one to the director through you, CEO, and then I'm happy to take the second one myself. So that the first one was that potential disconnect between what is on the website about the intention for Risby Street versus what she might have heard elsewhere.
So I'll provide an answer in writing following this meeting around what the intention with Risby Street is. We had quite a detailed question before, so I'll make sure we capture that as part of that discussion.
If that's okay, and come back to all of us. Yes, it certainly hadn't forgotten about the cycle lanes. There is no, as the written responses that have come to you with from staff previously, there's certainly no action or item action for this year to consider that work. And it is, as directors have pointed out to us both before, somewhat more complicated than lines on the road. However, I am personally keen to see how we can explore some of the roads that we know in our community are already quite wide and would accommodate cycle paths or cycle lanes. I have spoken with Director Nick, who's just taken on that role in the last little while, and the new CEO starts on the 7th of April. So for me, that would be how can I encourage the director, the CEO, and then other councillors to consider it as an action item in the next year, the 25-26 year. So certainly hasn't, I certainly haven't forgotten, but there isn't a provision to do it at this point in time. I'm not sure how we're running according to time there. Ian, are there other questions? Yes, please. How are we going for time, please, Ian? Lovely, thank you. Welcome, Janine.
I've been away, so I might have missed this. Can you say the recent history of the Park Street Council land that came up for sale recently? Was it on the market for everyone? Because it seemed to be out of the blue. I didn't know that was coming up, and seemed rather cheap for the amount of land there. And what sort of development is going to be going there?
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you. I might refer this question to our Director of Strategic Growth, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So that was the process, the price, or whatever it is that we're able to tell the public in relation to the price, and what is the intent with the land. Thank you, Darryl.
So yeah, I mean, thank you for your question. So yeah, it was certainly on the market publicly. So I guess first of all, there was a meeting, a report linked to a formal council meeting in the public agenda about disposing of that property, and then it was listed. It was actually publicly available. it was subject to an expression of interest process. Of course, even though councillors were happy to dispose of the site, it was on the basis that we would apply some conditions, which are really about ensuring that it wasn't just going to sit there at the land bank. So one of the conditions was that people who were interested would have to let us know how many dwellings that they would be willing to build, and then there was some negotiation of time frames.
Would be residential development.
So just people to build their own houses, so it's just going to be blocks.
I'm not sure.
The plan, the intention is for a multi-dwelling development. Like, the only reason I didn't quote a number was stopped in case I got it wrong without it in front of me, but it's either 8 or 10 dwellings.
Just the blocks, and the houses will be pre-built.
No, the purchaser's intention is to build dwellings on them.
And sell them as individual houses.
Probably.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions from the floor? No? Thank you for those who have participated. We appreciate it. That takes us to item 8. Councillors, thank you, CEO and staff, for your responses to the questions. Item 8, councillor acting as a planning authority. So the recommendation there that the council resolves to act as a planning authority in accordance with the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act to make the next lot of decisions. Would a councillor care to move that recommendation? Councillor Hiskett, seconded. Councillor Smith. No questions or discussion there. I put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Which takes us to 8.2, which is the draft amendment to the local provision schedule, the 4th specific area plan, subdivision areas A and B. Would a councillor care to move the recommendation, please?
Happy to move that.
Thank you, Councillor Bestwick, seconded Councillor Carpenter. Councillor Bestwick, did you wish to speak to this item?
Yeah, just briefly, Mayor. This is just dealing with, I suppose, what is a perceived error by the State Planning Office. So we just need to do this draft amendment, to remove the draft amendment, so that we can revisit it and just fix up where there was some errors. This work will be revisited as part of a new home strategy, and some work will be done as far as how we see development in that 4th area in the forthcoming information session.
Thank you. Other speakers, please.
Just quick, Mayor,
Thank
just
you.
concur with Councillor Bestwick. It's probably an opportune time for this to happen, this mistake. And along with our director, our homes, our future, we will probably see a different set go in for the specific area plan for 4th. So it's a matter of that learning as we go through. So probably an opportune mistake that wasn't made by council.
Correct. Yes, so an error by the Tasmanian Planning Commission. Yep. Any other speakers? No, Councillor Bestwick, anything close?
Is there anything else to add?
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Takes us to item 9, which is the Office of the CEO and Mayor, and recommendation that the council receive the Chief Executive Officer's report for March 2025. Would a councillor care to move the report? Councillor Hiskett, thank you. Seconded Councillor Viney. Councillor Hiskett, anything to say in relation to the CEO's report, please?
Thank you, Mayor, and the CEO bring this forward. I'd like to move this motion because it always has a lot of amazing and interesting information about our organisation. I think it's a very valuable piece of our agenda. No specifics this time, just to say though, probably urge that when the new CEO comes on board, that a thorough review of her perspective on those culture plan and the organisational excellence is probably required to make sure it's in line with the new direction or continued direction that we're looking for in that. So I think it's just a bit of a moment of discussion to make sure that we make sure it fits with and keep with what she hopes to do with the organisation as well. So, but no, that things are ticking along well. It's good to see not too many actions behind and not completed already for the year. So ticking on. Thank you.
Thank you. Other speakers? Nobody. The room is silent. It must mean that you're all happy. Excellent. Well, in that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10 is community services. There are no items for the open session, which takes us to section 11, corporate services, and 11.1, which is the property disposal policy. You have been provided with a copy of the policy and a full report there. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for that item, please? Councillor Carpenter, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Beswick. Councillor Carpenter, did you wish to speak?
Just quickly, Mayor, outline, I think people, it was interesting, we've got a question about property disposal, which is great. That's great that the people of Central Coast are interested in the land, and over time we learn how much land we do own, and sometimes year on year we find that we own land that I didn't even know about. But if you look through the policy and you look at the purpose of this policy is to establish a framework for council decisions when considering the disposal, sale, exchange and transfer of council-owned property. So when you read down through that for everybody and sitting around here, as we know, that gives a clear understanding what staff can do and what we can do and can and cannot do. And I think it's great for our constituent, our ratepayers now that have confidence in when we do put land up for sale, we've gone through the consultation, the communication and everything else is done in accordance with this policy there. So it's an extremely important policy to have and to adopt, and really thank the staff for putting this together. It's not a long-winded one. It's probably succinct and right down to its purpose. So endorse it.
Thank you so much. Other speakers? Councillor Beswick.
Like us to speak there, we're all happy at the moment, and we will remain so. But yeah, it's a policy which is just really setting it out. So just concur with the thoughts of Councillor Carpenter. Often there's land that can be sold, and the monies, as was mentioned earlier, about in the question about where was the funds going to get used. We aren't flush for cash unless we go for more rates, so it's good to be able to use some assets in a better way rather than just sitting there not achieving anything for our community. So it's just a good policy to be able to spell out what we need and not do for the community.
Good, thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Carpenter, anything to add at the end? No, I put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.2 is the communication and engagement strategy and framework. We've had a workshop on this item and these items have been presented to you. You have a full report and a copy of the strategy and framework. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for that item, please? Councillor Diprose, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Hiskett. Councillor Diprose.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm pleased to see this come to council now. I believe the last strategy was 2016, so we know how much different communication ways change over that period of time, and communication within and with our community is one of the most crucial things for them and for us. So it's really good to see that our focus is strong on this by looking at this strategy of how we can keep improving on how we deal with, listen to and receive information from our community members.
Thank you. Other speakers? Councillor Beswick.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the new staff, that Dylan specifically, who's been working on this. He's ramped up our engagement, an online process, and also getting out to events and so forth like that, and that's all part of the engagement. So just like to acknowledge the work that he's doing in that role as well.
Thank you so much. Councillor Hiskett.
Councillor Beswick, start the list. I was going to say, you looked at me almost reminded me. Yeah, no, the staff have put in place in there, decent, and making council's first part is to do things, and the second thing is to make sure that people know that we've done things transparently and appropriately, and I think this is a good way. This document allows a good structure on how we provide that feedback to the community, and yeah, one of the more important documents that we do.
Agreed. Any other speakers? No. Councillor Diprose, did you wish to close?
No, Mayor.
Nothing too bad. Thank you. I put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against, motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Followed closely by the fraud and corruption control policy. I don't know,
Policy.
Yeah.
it is policy night. From the fabulous to the potentially not so fabulous if you didn't have the right policy in place. 11.3 is the fraud and corporation policy. Again, you've received a report and a copy of the policy and the fact that it is updating our previous documentation. Would a councillor care to move the suggested item? Thank you, Councillor Viney. Seconded, Councillor Carpenter. Councillor Viney, your thoughts?
Yes, unfortunately, we live in a society where we need these sort of policies and controls, and over time, the way people evade and take funds, property, etc., from others changes over time, and our policy needs to change over time, and it's just another one, a review to catch up with what is going on in society.
Thank you. Other speakers? Councillor Carpenter?
Yes, Mayor, thank you, Mayor, and I think concur with Councillor Viney. But people should read through these policies sometimes and see what's actually written in there, because it should give confidence to everybody that the council is operating in the proper and respected manner. And it's under the scope. It's quite simple. It's read. The policy applies to all councillors, committee members, employees, contractors, consultants, and volunteers of council. Then it goes on and tells you what you do and don't do and whatever, and then how do people deal with anything that's in fraud and all this sort of stuff. So it's again a policy that we've got, and it should give our people confidence that council is run properly. I know that we are in the world we're in, but I think really we've got everything in place to make sure we can slow as much down as we possibly can. I'm not saying we're even a council like that. Policy is there to make sure people get caught.
Indeed. Other speakers? No, for me, there's a couple of headline things there. More simple language. Good. And clearer identification of officer responsibilities. So to your point, Councillor Carpenter, it is all inclusive for this organisation and everybody that is part of it, and it is very clear about what the expectations and what our obligations are. My thanks to staff for making it as such. Councillor Viney, anything to close?
No, thank you, Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Takes us to 11.4, the financial report. And as I might have said before, if I was an onlooker and I wanted to understand the finances of this organisation in a public and open document, there is no simpler way to do it than to just read this agenda item. My compliments to the staff again. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for that item? Thank you, Councillor Viney. Seconded, Councillor Hiskett. Councillor Viney, your thoughts?
My thoughts are this is once again a very detailed report, very clear, concise. It has got all the explanations of all the line items as whether we're meeting the targets, whether we're not going to go near them, but in the end it is very clear and lets us know what's going on within the organisation.
Thank you. Other speakers? You can't beat a good traffic light strategy, traffic light approach, can you? Green, red, orange. Any other thoughts? No, nobody. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Which takes us to item 12, infrastructure services. 12.1 is the Resource Recovery Centre opening times review, the review of the opening times for our RRC in Lobster Creek. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for that item, please?
I may.
Councillor Beswick, indeed you may. A seconder, please. Councillor Diprose. Councillor Beswick.
Thanks, Mayor. This is something I've specifically been working with over the last couple of years to try and get a bit of a resolution with some of the opening hours. It probably started with me from in my working life when we couldn't get rid of our waste on Easter Tuesday. And that was a public holiday for government workers, but the general public were often working those days, so it was an impediment to businesses. But then when I started looking around at the other communities around us, and it just made me aware that there was quite a few days that we were closed that other councils were open. And for me, the Resource Recovery Centre is a service to our community. Not everybody can get there during working hours, and they might be doing other things, and they use a public holiday to do some tidying up around home, or in a case of builder, he might be tidying up around the workshop or whatever on a long weekend, and he needs to go to the Resource Recovery Centre. I'd like to thank the staff for working through these times and everything. There's been some movement in times as well, which I think is going to be better. Instead of opening at 9 o'clock, it's opening at 8 a.m. Because in the end, often you've got to load the night before so you can get rid of it. So I hope that the community will see some benefit from that. And again, as I say, I thank the staff and so forth for working through that. And I look forward to its implementation. I think it was beginning, I can't remember actually the implementation date. Should look that up. But yeah, I commend the motion to the councillor.
Thank you. Other speakers, please. Councillor Hisker.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate Councillor Beswick for his tireless continued comments on this. I think it's a good conclusion that we've come up with, and I want to thank the staff for working with that in the review. It's good to see an outcome that I think will be favourable for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Diprose.
Yeah, just want to say it's always good to come up with conclusions and doing things better when ideas are put and staff have been open enough to say we come in at 9 o'clock and people are backed up because they're waiting to get in, and the fact that staff are given that opportunity to have their view on that kind of stuff too, I think says a lot about how we work within our workforce and how it's a collaborative approach to get things done.
Any other speakers? No. Councillor Beswick, anything to close?
No, I don't think there's anything else to add, Mayor. Look forward to the change, and I hope the community does as well.
Thank you. I put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Takes us to 13, strategic growth, and 13.1, which is the road naming policy. So this is the first time that we've seen a policy of this nature. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion here, please?
Someone's moving in.
So sorry.
I'll stick it. Used to be a running joke.
Used to be with the.
They don't use those.
Nomenclature board. Yes, I remember Councillor Dry and the running joke. We digress. Moved Councillor Beswick, seconded Councillor Carpenter. Councillor Beswick.
Yes, Mayor, as tonight is all about policies and changes and updates. In the end, again, this is another one that just needed some fine tuning for the future. It's interesting when you go to name streets where in the end you can't have it here because it's there and so forth. People think, oh, if I want to name it after myself, I can, but there's a whole process to go through. So again, this is just a policy to set out how we deal with it and so forth. So,
thank you. Other speakers?
Councillor Beswick, Councillor.
It does provide the opportunity for members of the public to submit names that would go on a list that council could consider and that developers or subdividers can consider, which is something we haven't been able to do before. So people that are particularly passionate about Central Coast, about Indigenous elements of their communities or cultural aspects, it allows people to have some input that way. So stay tuned for some interesting road names at future meetings. Thank you to the staff for seeing this process through. Any other speakers? Do you wish to close?
Nothing other than to thank for you. That was a good point that you raised about that the community will be able to be involved a little bit more. So
yeah.
Nothing else.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Takes us to 13.2 on the same topic. Request to approve some new street names. The new roads off Rawson Street, Ulverston, including the extension of Rawson Street. So you've been provided with the subdivision, the layout, and the suggested resolution regarding the names. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for that item? Thank you, Councillor Viney. Seconded, Councillor Smith. Councillor Viney.
Following on from the previous motion, and saying that we might end up with some different sort of names, we now introduce to the system a Dinah Street and a Charlie Close. And if you read through the report that goes with this motion, you'll note that there were several other names that were put up and were disallowed by the Tasmanian
Place names.
Thank you very much for that. On the basis that they were elsewhere, and these were the ones that ended up that were unique, and luckily they do have a little bit of attachment to the actual area concerned. So I'm pleased to be able to bring that motion forward.
Thank you so much. Other speakers? No? Councillor Beswick, were you about to say something?
I was just taking breath, but
No.
concur with Councillor Viney. And also that it is interesting in the names that when you look at what they refuse.
Yes.
Like Charlie Court wasn't allowed. Simpson Court. Oh no, sorry, Charlie Court.
Charlie Court is.
Sorry, McKenna Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just interesting when you read through the report. So,
Indeed it is.
I want some light reading.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Takes us to 13.3. Here's a good news story. Public open space contributions policy. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for this item?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Beswick. Seconded, Councillor Hiskett. Councillor Beswick, your thoughts?
I've just got a couple of notes here just so I can sort of make sure I address this. This has basically come about as an outcome of our meetings with industry and community participants that we've been carrying out over the last 18 months for ongoing improvements to our processes, land use planning, and probably red tape. Makes things a little bit easier for things to be done. Smaller subdivisions will be exempt from planning open space contributions. Under these proposed changes, subdivisions resulting in 3 lots or less will be exempt from user requirements. So if you've got a large block and you want to just subdivide a piece off the back of it, there won't be a public open space contribution in those instances. High land prices, an ageing population and more people wanting to relocate here from the mainland are all leading to increased demand for smaller blocks located close to town centres. It's interesting, Mayor, with the discussions about, with the housing development in Penguin and so forth, that's what people are looking for. It'll make small infill developments more viable, especially for those mum and dad developers who may wish to just split their large block off, and maybe for their children or for their parents or whatever. It'll build another dwelling either as a downsizer, investment property, or to help, as I said, to help their kids into the market. The revised policy provides council the discretion to negotiate with developers and also provides greater clarity and guidance for the developers and their staff. So, as you mentioned, Mayor, this is a good news story. It cut a bit of red tape and just shows that the things that we're working through with the meetings and so forth we're having with community groups, how we're making some positive changes for the future.
Thank you. Other speakers? Councillor Hiskett.
Thank you, Mayor, and I think I concur with you, the comments from Councillor Beswick. It's really come about, and the original implication of having the 5% public contribution was, so that some of the sales were used as parks, and then we've said, well, when you've got a 1 or 2 lot, let's put it on us, so we'll take it as a cash contribution instead. And this is the realisation that although the original policy probably wasn't the right thing in the first place, and so when you've got a small subdevelopment, it makes more sense to just go ahead and do it. And I think this is a really good change the council's making. I'd like to commend the staff who've progressed and put it forward. And I think we can now, as I said, allow those smaller developments. They just want to, put a little block on the back of their land and, contribute more available spaces for people to move into. Can do that without that administrative burden. The reason that gives less of the reasons why not to, and that's I think what this policy does. I appreciate it and commit.
Thank you. Other speakers? Nothing. Anything to close, Councillor Beswick?
Just one thing I note that this is passed tonight, which I commend it to all the councillors. That will come into effect for any DAs lodged after the 1st of July this year. So,
Fabulous. Thank you. I put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Takes us to 13.4, development support determinations. Speaking of development, if they are in front of you, would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for this item? Councillor Smith, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Beswick. Councillor Smith, did you wish to speak to this?
It's great to see things are still bubbling along really well for us. No one likes these DAs more than me. I like to see things go, and they are going well for us, and the staff are doing a good job in the time allowed, and I think the things, we're very pleased how things are going for us. And I think I have to say much more than that.
Thank you. Any other speakers? The sun sets in Penguin on this beautiful evening.
Lucky I'm not sitting on that side there.
End of conversation. Thank you. I put the motion. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. That takes us to 14, which is the closed session of the meeting being closed to the public. Would a councillor care to move the recommended motion for this item? Councillor Dipro, seconded Councillor Hiskett. All those in favour, aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. The meeting is now closed to the public at 7:17. Thank you for your attendance. Please take any information that is of use to you there on the table, and those of you to whom we owe responses will be forthcoming. Yep.